Hey you guys, welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be my second update in my 2021 Pan Those Eyeshadow series. This was a series that was created by Lexi, who has started doing this project again this year in 2021. She had taken 2 years off, which is kind of when this project really started to take off, and she is back doing this project this year. So I will have her channel linked down below as well as her 2021 playlist or videos or whatever, so that you can go check her out. But there are so many other people who are doing this project, so if you like to watch people pan eyeshadow, I highly recommend just searching the hashtag pan those eyeshadows and you will have lots of content to binge watch. Mine is coming a little bit late. I'm just a little bit behind on all of my filming. It's really early in the morning. My hair is still wet, drying from the shower, and I was playing around with the hair in my mouth with the Club Nebula palette today. So this look is definitely outside my comfort zone. Definitely gonna be washing this off before I drop my daughter off at school today, because I'm very concerned that the other mothers out there are gonna be incredibly jealous of my blue eyeshadow, and I just don't want to stir up the pot. I don't want to start drama, you know? I don't think that was a good wink. Anyway, I'm joking, obviously. Ooh, my hands. I mean, are you guys proud of this, self-tan job? My hands haven't looked this great from a self-tan in a while, so no need to call them out in the comments. I already know they look fantastic. Anyway, if you guys are interested in seeing my progress, including no new pans, but a couple of bonus pans, stay tuned. First, if you have yet to subscribe to my channel and you like project panning content, or you just like to chit chat about makeup, or you just like to laugh at people with really bad self-tans, this is absolutely the place for you, and I hope you consider subscribing before moving on. And other than that, let's just get into the update. Alright you guys, so everyone typically runs this project a little bit differently pending their makeup, just the way that they use their makeup. For me, I have given myself the rule of either a shadow has to be in my project for 3 months and it's just not going anywhere, or I have to use a shadow 15 times, or I have to hit pan on a shadow in order for it to roll out. I have given myself 3 automatic rollouts, doesn't matter if I've hit any of those stipulations, and I did use one in my first update. I'm not going to use one today. I don't have any new pans on any of these shadows that I was working on within this project. However, I have hit the 15 use mark on one of my shadows, so we will be rolling in a new shadow. Hopefully I can find last month's color story picture to post right here for you so that you can see the color story that I was working on. Now, I've said in other videos, I wasn't wearing makeup in February as much as I have been, but I am definitely re-inspired to just work on my eyeshadows. I've also brought a ton of new eyeshadow palettes into my collection in an overwhelming amount, which I definitely learned. I needed to reel it in and slow it down. So we're slowing it down. We're trying to actually hit pan in our shadows rather than just bring in 17 palettes every single month. So hoping I will have more exciting progress to share with you guys next update, but I will share my 2 bonus pans with you guys. So in my Urban Decay Born to Run palette, I did finally hit pan in this shade right here. This is in the shade, I think, Good Is Gone. Yes, and I was using this in my brows. So typically I'm always working on a shadow as a base shade, so a lid setting shade. And then also I try and cycle through all of the dark browns in my collection to hit pan while using it in my brows. This is also a palette that I have included in my palettes on their last hurrah. If you're interested in that video, I'll link it down below. But essentially at the beginning of the year, I chose 10 palettes that I wasn't ready to declutter at the time, but I wanted to kind of get some use on them throughout the year. And then I think at the end of the year, I will end up decluttering them. I will say though, the more that I've reached into this palette, the more I'm I still do really love this palette. I don't know that I'm gonna end up decluttering this one. But really exciting to hit a pan on this shadow. I used that one a ton before I hit pan on it. The mattes in the Urban Decay Born to Run are Too Faced shadows. They just take forever to hit pan on. And then my other bonus pan was a single, and this is a depotted shadow from one of the Frozen palettes. I think it was the Frozen Elsa palette. And I was working on that shadow in my Deck of Panning project pan and was able to hit pan on that. So I am up to 5 pans that I've hit throughout my makeup collection or my palette collection this year in 2021. None of them have been in my project pan. So now let's jump into, none of them have been in my Pan Those eyeshadows, but now let's jump into my Pan Those eyeshadows, eyeshadow pans. Oh my gosh, can you tell it's early in the morning and I'm trying to hurry? before I get my daughter up for school. So let's start with my Sultry palette. I rolled in probably the shade I would want to work on the least in here, and it is the shade Slate, which is this gray shade right here. Last update, I was at 5 uses, and I only reached for this an additional 2 times. So I am at 7 uses. I just do not wear grays that often. Like, I actually have quite a bit of pan in this palette. I have 4 pans already. I would have rather reached for anything other than that gray, except for maybe the black, but we still have a ways to go. This is also kind of unlike other ABH matte shadows in that it's not one I feel like you're gonna hit pan on real quickly. So if I could use this 8 more times, we could roll it out next update, but we will see. This next one is I'm trying to look at my notes to see where I'm at for this one. My ColourPop Baby Got Peach. This got rolled into my Pan Those Eyeshadows project 3 times last year, and yet again, here we are. So I am working on this shade right here, which is in the shade Ochre. Now my palette might look a little bit different. I dropped mine, my shades fell out, and I didn't bother to look at popping them into the right places necessarily. So I'm not sure that this is the actual right shadow, but it's the shadow that I decided to work on. I did only reach for this one time. However, I am getting really excited to create some more springtime looks, and I do love corals in the spring. So, or coral / peaches, so that's what that shadow looks like right there. It is a really beautiful shade. I just haven't really created many warmer peach tone looks yet. If I've been doing warmers, I've been doing a lot of bronzy looks, but I just have not reached into that. I also am working on a shade out of my Pat McGrath Sublime palette, and I reached into the shade that I'm working on, which is this one right here. I reached into this 7 total times. I was also working on this palette in my deck of panning, Project Pan, I believe, and I reached into this palette more than 7 times, but only 7 times for this shade specifically. It's a really, really beautiful duochrome shade, as you can tell. Sometimes it's like this red shade, sometimes it looks more bronzy, and then if it hits the light right, it looks really green. It is such a cool and unique shade, and it's definitely a shade that in the past I've reserved for like special occasions. I would never consider wearing this to work because I felt like I was wasting it at work, but I did actually wear this to work a couple of times, and I felt like it worked really well. It wasn't like too over the top, especially if I really sheared it out or just put it on with my finger. So I'm hoping I can get 8 more uses on that and roll this one out next update. I have a feeling the pans are pretty deep on this one, so I don't necessarily know that this one will be one that I hit pan on, but we'll see. My Artemis palette has been in this project since the beginning, and last update I was at 4 uses. I only reached into the shade an additional 2 times. I am working on this shade right here, which is in the shade Ravage, and it is a really beautiful kind of bronzy orange shade. I have no idea how deep the pans are for the Alter Ego palette, but I would like to hit pan on that. There is the shade right there. It will match really nicely with this one from the Peach Perfect palette, and I do feel like this is a shade that I could see myself wearing a ton again as we reach the like spring months. So excited to continue to reach for that, which brings me to my 5th and final palette, which is the Glamlight Cake palette, and I was working on the shade Chocolate, which is right here. I was mostly using this on the lower lash line. Last update, I was at 2 uses, and I did reach into this an additional 13 times. Even though it's really not gonna look all that used, I feel like this palette would take forever to hit pan on shades, because I was also like digging my brush in the same, not digging, but putting my brush in the same spot every time. And typically when I feel like when I use shadows for liner, like they go quicker, but I feel like it barely looks like I've used this shadow. So because I have hit my 15 usage mark, I am gonna roll this one out. I still have to test this palette in its capacity. I haven't even come back to review and rank this palette for you guys, but the mattes perform really, really well. I just think the pans are really deep, and I'm not gonna be able to really have a chance unless I worked on that like all year. So I am going to pull up my Pretty Random app and my spreadsheet, and we're gonna re-roll a new shadow to work on. So I think there are still some shadows missing from, like there's some palettes I haven't even used yet so I haven't put those shadows into my spreadsheet. So it's not 100% up to date, but it's pretty close. And my only rule for myself is that I do not want to work on a matte black shadow or a satin matte black shadow, I guess. So if I were to roll a black shadow, I would re-roll. So we are going to do a min of 1 and a max of 1262. And we get number 30. Ooh, that's probably an ABH palette. Let's see. Number 30 is coming from my it's coming from my Sultry palette. I feel like this palette gets rolled all the time as well. This was in my Pan Those eyeshadows last year all the time. And I got the shade Bloom, which is probably the like second or third one I would not want to work on. I think I've reached for this shade one time. It's the Pop of Coral in here. Although I do feel like this will work well with some of these other shades that I have. I actually feel like, with the exception of the gray in this, this actually is a color story that could work really well together. I'm just not all that excited about it, but I have barely reached into that shade, so I guess, you know, I can get used out of my collection, and it'll be nice that 2 of the shades I'm working on are in the same palette. What are the chances of that with my eyeshadow palette collection being like ridiculously large? Anyway, that is going to wrap it up for today's video. I'll take a picture of the swatches so that I can include it next time. Hopefully editing stuff adds actual pictures of progress, but I could see her forgetting because she doesn't really have her life together. Anyway, you guys, thank you so much for sticking around to watch today's video and for supporting my channel. I love you guys so much, and I will catch you in my next one. Bye!